Hey, folks. Yes, Mercury retrograde has ended now, so everything is all your fault again. I'm going to be talking about that today, as well as a quick update of a few other things that are shifting right now, including that Jupiter is about to go into Taurus, and several other things that are ahead. We have a lot of big shifts ahead, so um, hang in there and stick around with me today. Please like the video. Clicking like helps a lot more than you know. It pushes the video higher in relevant video searches. Also, please leave a nice comment. Comments also help more than you know as it raises the video in searches. Many times with hundreds of likes, there are only a dozen comments and they can be disproportionately negative. So be positive. Let me know if you like this. Even just a few words really help. So subscribe, ring the bell to get notified of upcoming videos. Yes, indeed. Thank you for all of the love and the subscriptions to the oops, what am I doing here? Sorry. To the member site where people can also, go deeper and get classes and frequent updates that are only available to the members. But today we have a update about this Mercury retrograde. Of course, we have this, Mercury had gone retrograde and passed right over when we had the recent eclipse. As I'm doing this here on April 25th, it's 17 days from the solar eclipse. That fast, right? It was more than 2 weeks ago that we had the solar eclipse in Pisces. And at that time, Mercury had just gone, or was just about to go into Pisces. Then it stations, and it's been stationing around 21 degrees right on Rahu in the sky now for, pretty much this whole week. It stopped there. And by the way, as you see, I was just talking about the memberships that you can get. Every week, I do a detailed forecast of the week ahead. And in this week's forecast, I talked about this. In this week ahead, even at the basic level, even at this unicorn level, you get a comprehensive week ahead. It says Astrology week ahead, Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific. And I talked about this right here in this week ahead. For pretty much this entire week, Mercury is stationed on Rahu. It's like 21 degrees, like for pretty much the whole week. Because Mercury goes retrograde and then it kind of stops. It's called stationary direct. That's what it was this week. Right now, it's really stationary direct. It's not that it's no longer retrograde. It should just be seen that it's no longer retrograde. So it's called stationary direct. So it stops at 21 degrees right on Rahu, which is right where we just had the eclipse. So there's some strange, confusing, weird communications going on, right now. People coming maybe from your past suddenly popping up and saying, oh, remember me and the weird communication we've had before? Well, let's do it again. Or some other kind of strange things might be going on right now. And especially in this Pisces area of life, wherever that was for you. And again, not to keep going back to the same thing, but in the members level, for example, at the visionary level, I did the eclipse for each of the 12 signs so that you could know where this eclipse was affecting you. So if you go back, by the way, those of you who are at the Oracle 5D or visionary level, go back and watch that again. The eclipse video, which was the new moon in Pisces last week. And that area of life is what's really getting affected for you. Well, this Mercury stationary direct is also affecting that same area of life. So it's affecting the same area of life that the eclipse was, because as you see, it's happening right on the eclipse point, right on Rahu. So this is all pretty intense, to say the least. So again, like for me, I have a Gemini rising, so this is happening in my 10th house. So it's around work and, maybe clients from the past or other kinds of things also, I also have Jupiter there, which is my 7th house ruler. Also has to do with like other people, especially like romantic partners, potential romantic partners, other kinds of things. For me, it's a real mixed bag, or a real loaded bag of relationships and work, because the 7th and 10th house ruler was there getting eclipsed. So Mercury is banging around back there, and you see Mars just entered also. So, you know, there's also, as you can see under here, this thing that says My 2024 Vedic Astrology. That is a page where, do I have it here? Did I bring it up? Oh, well, you can see from my, this was my newsletter. I just decided to pull up a screenshot. This is a newsletter I sent out today on my email list, where I sent people to the full moon in Libra forecast. And then I also told them about this. As it says, Mercury's been retrograde since April 1st, but turned direct yesterday. It's one of the 11 shifts I analyzed for 2024. There's so many changes around the corner, with Jupiter entering Taurus in May. Also, more Mercury retrogrades, as well as Saturn and Jupiter retrogrades. So again, someone could click here and get the 2024 Vedic astrology forecast for your sign. And again, if you go there, I'll just drop the link in the chat for those who are watching live. It'll be posted under the YouTube video as well, and also where this video is shown. But you can get that for your sign as well. And you can see that in the 2024 forecast, I go over your work and goals in 2024, your relationships, get answers, 2024 planetary cycles and whatnot. But it's really also, it's mostly based on these shifts that I outlined in my 2024 forecast. So these are all the things that are coming up. That's why I decided to just do an update here, because these are all the things that are coming up between now and like the end of 2024. Again, this Mercury retrograde from Aries to Pisces that just started, or I'm sorry, that's just ending. But then, you know, this is the eclipse. But then, as you see, May 1st, Jupiter enters Taurus. I'm going to be doing an update on that very shortly. November 4th, Saturn retrograde. June 30th to November 4th, Saturn goes retrograde. Then we have Mercury retrograde in Leo, solar eclipse in Virgo. So again, there's a lot ahead. And if you did want to have me talk about that in your chart for like half hour, check it out. If that serves you. A lot of people ask for these things. They're very popular. So I'm doing some more of them again. But this autofocus camera. Okay. So, but the big news is, since Mercury retrograde has ended, it's all your fault again. Come on, this camera, this autofocus camera. So it's been a situation where, with Mercury retrograde going back and forth, we wind up saying, oh, it must be Mercury retrograde. It's the big sort of, you know, astrological scapegoat. That's the word I'm looking for. And so he stopped going retrograde. But again, we often don't understand that Mercury retrograde isn't always just a sort of difficult thing, because now, again, he's also in his sign of debilitation, and he's with the North Node, Rahu. So what seemed like this difficult Mercury retrograde, he's actually in a pretty difficult spot right now. For example, the Mercury retrograde that happens later in the year, which happens in Leo, will be much less difficult even than the time we're having now, potentially, especially relative to communication, because Mercury is really about getting that story straight in your head. As you may have heard me say many times, Mercury is the story in your head, and how clear that story is, how correct that story is, what you're telling yourself about what things actually mean. And so that story in your head is big. And as it relates to really all areas of life. Now, again, it's more contextualized for each individual, because Mercury is a planetary ruler. And so for each person, he's going to rule different areas of life. Like if you're a Cancer person, he rules the 3rd and the 12th house. So Mercury has a certain function in the story that he tells, for example, or the way the stories sound to you. But in general, he's the speaker and the storyteller. And it's going to be telling you stories about all kinds of things right now. Again, sort of based on your chart, like if you have planets there, like I just said, I have Jupiter there. So it's actually stories about my work and career and my relations with others, with a big focus on the duties and responsibilities because it's the 10th house. But he's always telling stories about things. And when it's in Pisces, the story is somewhat confusing because Pisces is where all the details kind of blur together. If you haven't noticed, and maybe, you can also just really notice one of the biggest things that's happened since the eclipse, or, we had that eclipse on April 8th. But then right after that, Mercury went into Pisces, and Mercury's been in that debilitated sign of Pisces ever since. So depending on how important Mercury is in your chart or for you, like again, for me, he's my ruling planet, so it's also quite important, but it can be quite difficult and feeling like you're just sort of like, especially, again, like with the stories in your head and with like feeling kind of like you're underwater a little bit. Like, what does this mean again? And just sort of confusing, like, why does everything feel so confusing? Why does everything feel like it's so confusing? And what does this mean? Like, again, that's really what Mercury is trying to do, is figure things out and use our discrimination to try to understand what does this mean? And what is this person communicating? Or, what do I communicate back, or whatever it might be. So it's been pretty intense retrograde cycle with Mercury that started April 1st, and it just ended. So the Mercury retrograde just ended. And as you see here, again, if you did want to have me talk about how the rest of 2024 is going to play out for you relative to all of these shifts, now's a good time to also get the 2024 assessment. And there's other Mercury retrograde cycles. There's the eclipse later in October. There's also Saturn and Jupiter retrograde. So I would look at your chart and see exactly what are the most salient inflection points going forward, because everything isn't the same for each person. Like if you have an Aquarius ascendant, then that Saturn going retrograde that happens at the end of June, that's going to be especially important for you. If you're a Taurus person, then the fact that Jupiter is about to go into Taurus on May 1st, that transit is going to have exalted importance for you because it's your first house, for example. So all of those shifts are really big. But this gets me to the rest of the forecast, and the reason that I wanted to just come on live here today is because there are, again, several other important shifts that are right around the corner, and ones that just happened. For example, Venus also just went into Aries. Now, Venus had been in Pisces. Well, actually, it had been in Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. So for back into last year, or no, I think it was earlier this year, Venus has been pretty strong for pretty much the whole year. I mean, strong in the sense that Venus does well in the Saturn-ruled signs. And it's also exalted in Pisces, where, again, we just feel very, or we have a capacity to feel very content and connected to the Venus aspects of life, which are beauty, creativity, even things like art, music, relationship, and enjoying those things, being able to enjoy those things. And also being able to enjoy the give and take with others that is necessary in order to have those things. Because in order to have those things, especially as they relate to other people, we have to enjoy the give and take. And it's the give and take, not too much give because then we're going to resent and feel like someone is taking, and not too much take where we don't want to give. It's give and take, and particularly with other people, but also with all things, even with things like like food and the senses and whatnot. There's always a give and take. There's a bargain going on, and Venus negotiates that bargain. Now, when it goes into Aries, like it is here, Aries is ruled by Mars. It's much more insistent, individual, maybe frustrated, angry, irritated about all the compromises that we made. Maybe we made too many compromises when Venus was in Pisces, and now we're trying to fight our way back. And again, you have to be careful with a really strong and aggressive snapback when Venus goes into Aries, especially. This is a big shift here because Venus goes from the exalted place where it's just kind of like, yeah, okay, anything, sure, let it all hang out. Yeah, it's all one love, yay, right? How do you make the heart thing, right? Yay. To like, wait a minute, you're a narcissist. You've been oppressing me. I compromised and did all of that. What have you done? Why am I always the one? Why am I always the one who has to give in and da 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 da, right? So we were ready to give in with no boundaries there in Pisces. And then Aries is about, wait a minute, you made me do this. And we can be angry. Again, we have to realize that it's up to us to have that give and take. And in many ways, Venus is the part that wants to give, and Mars is the one that wants to take. We have to be careful of that part. And because these two are opposites when they're in the extremes. So anytime you get a planet in a sign ruled by its opposite, like Venus and Mars here, then there can be frustration. So that just happened a couple of days ago. So you might have noticed since the beginning of this week how suddenly you're more vigilant about how respected and appreciated you are. That's really the currency with Venus. How respected and appreciated you are. But again, it's up to you first to maintain those boundaries and not do things that you're going to feel disrespected for later. Because no one can disrespect you. You can disrespect yourself by going along with things that you think are disrespectful because you want connection. And this is always what happens. And there's always this fine line. It's up to you to say, wait a minute, this is too far. I'm going to draw the line here. And then, but again, when we do that, we also risk breaking connection, because when we draw that line, we usually have to break connection and say, wait a minute, I want to have connection with you, but I don't want it that bad, because if I do that, I won't respect myself. Right. So again, this is very important to understand. Instead, what we tend to do is turn over the boundary, then get mad at the person acting like they violated the boundary when usually they didn't violate the boundary. We put the boundary down because we wanted the connection. So again, watch that thing right here. Be careful of that right here. With Venus having just gone into Aries. And again, you see Jupiter's also right on the cusp of going into Taurus, which will happen on May 1st, early next week. I'll be doing a big update on that. And I do have a class that I did on that, jupiterwebinar.com. You can go to there if you want. I'll put a link in the description, but where I talk about Jupiter and Taurus for all 12 signs, very important shift as well. So this was sort of spontaneous to come on here and do this update. I just threw together a slide and put together a couple, bullets here for that. Show you the email that I sent out about this, and then also see if people want to get a quick update. These things are very helpful. Again, I have the YouTube memberships now, and when you click below the video here, you see below the video, it'll say join, subscribe. It opens a window like this. You'll see that there's a window that pops up, and you can register at a certain level. And again, this is the member page right here. These are all the memberships from this week, the full moon in Libra member forecast. That's at the examiner level, at the Lemurian level. Then you see the Vedic week ahead, all members welcome, other case studies here. So if those things are interesting to you as well, then you can go ahead and get that also. But either way, I appreciate people showing up here. I hope this was helpful for you to see, and you have a good one. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel.